Welcome. Today's practice will be focused around spinal twists. All you'll need, apart from your yoga mat, if you happen to have at home a hard block, that can be helpful. If you don't, there'll be other ways that you can modify. Begin by coming to child's pose, and this can be any variation of child's pose that you enjoy. Your knees could be close towards each other, or you could separate your knees, bring your toes together, and settle your hips down towards your heels. Extended child's pose is when you walk your hands out ahead of you and bring your head and chest down. But you can also put a bend in your elbows and allow your forearms to meet the mat, or you can even wrap your arms around your sides. Let's take a couple slow, deep breaths. When you inhale, breathe down towards your belly. Let your breath rise up towards your chest. Exhale slowly so you can feel the warmth of your breath on your mat. Again, inhale from the bottom to the top of your torso. And exhale slowly. Okay, now walk your hands over towards the right. Lift your head first, and then walk your hands. And place your left hand away from your left hip. Let's take a slow breath in to lengthen out the left side of your body. And a long exhale. When the exhale is done, lift your head, walk yourself through center over to the other side. We'll do the same thing. Place your right hand away from your right hip. Let your right hip settle down. And as you inhale, open up space through the right side of your rib cage. And with an exhale, soften that space. I think we did one more breath. And then lift your head and return to center and come up to your hands and your knees. From a tabletop shape, cat lifts and cat tucks. Begin with your next inhale, tip your pelvis forward, bring your chest forward, head forward. Exhale, round your spine, draw your tailbone down, your head down. Great. Inhale again. And exhale. Let's do a couple more. Just let these ones be guided at your own pace. And come back to a neutral spine. Walk your hands a palm length ahead of your shoulders, and we'll prepare down dog. So to curl your toes under, lift your knees up, and as you come up to down dog, add a little bit of movement through your heels, walking them out so you stretch out your hamstrings one side at a time. This is also time that you can allow your head to rock a few times side to side, or even trace little circles with the crown of your head, softening up your neck. And then put a little bend in your knees, look forward, walk your feet up to your hands to a standing forward fold. Place your feet wide enough that you feel steady. When you inhale next time, come up to a halfway lift so your spine lengthens. Great. As you exhale, bow back in towards your legs. Great. Inhale, again, up to a halfway lift, lengthening through your spine. And then exhale to bow back in. Okay, let's do that one more time, and inhale. And an exhale. Okay, bring your hands down to blocks or the ground and step your right foot back. Take a long lunge stride down your mat. And bring your hands right underneath your shoulders. And then bring your right knee down to the mat. Okay, so your right hand can be on a block or the ground, but bring your left elbow onto your left thigh. So your left arm is supporting you. Now, as you inhale, shift your hips back enough that you start to feel a hamstring stretch in your left leg. And then exhale, come forward, bend your left knee, and let your hips settle enough that there's some stretch in the front of your right thigh. As you inhale, move back into your left hamstrings. And exhale to draw forward. Okay, keep moving at your own pace. We'll do about 3 more. Give yourself time through slow breathing to explore the range of motion, trading off sensation from one leg to the other leg. One more time through. Okay. So as you come forward in the lunge, your right hand can be on a block or the ground as mentioned. Bring your left hand up to your left hip. So we're going to take our first twist. Roll your left hip back. If you're more comfortable bringing your left knee slightly wide to the left, you can do that. And then turn your chest towards the left and your gaze, and reach your left fingertips away from your right hand. And then draw your shoulders back and away from your ears so your neck has a bit more space. You can also turn your left palm forward and stretch your fingertips forward, bringing your upper arm bone near the side of your head. Notice how you're breathing. Let's take a couple more slow, deep breaths. The next time you breathe out, look down, bring your left hand to the inside of your left foot and move your hips back so your right hip is almost over your right knee. Then pull your left foot back down the length of your mat and extend your heel towards the back of your mat. So your leg is elevated at hip height. Okay, now indeed with your right hip over your right knee, bend your elbows and come right down onto your forearms. Place your elbows underneath your shoulders and then move your left hand underneath your face, and so your left forearm is on a little angle, and lift your right hand up to your right hip. So do check in that you feel steady. If you're better with both forearms on the ground, it can be that. Bend your left knee, bring your heel towards the back of your hips, lift from your belly button towards your spine, and then if you feel safe to look towards the right and bring your right hand towards your left foot, you can take that bind. If that feels a little out of reach too, your hand does not need to meet your foot. You can keep your hand at your hip, add the twist, and use your left hamstrings to hug your heel in. Try to keep your shoulders away from your ears and your neck long. Okay. And then release, bring your right hand down, actually come back onto your hands again and extend your left foot back. Now keep your left leg afloat, but bring it wide off to the left so it makes a 90-degree turn, and bring your left foot down to the ground. Move your hips back just enough that you start to feel some real weight through your legs. And then your right palm right underneath your chest, and move your left hand onto your left thigh. Actually, the outside of your thigh, and give your outer thigh a little press down so you can feel your hips are indeed at the same height. And then using that as a prop to add a twist, turn your upper body towards the left. So you're pushing down through your right hand into the mat, your left hand down into your left leg. And as you twist, maintain support for your lower back. So lift through your lower belly towards your spine. And then try to expand the space open through your collarbones. Just notice how you breathe so your breath is evenly timed. Holding space for your practice. And then look down, bring your left hand down, bring your left knee by your right knee and walk your hands ahead of your shoulders. Come back to downward facing dog. So lift your hips up and back. Okay, as you look back at your feet, space your feet a little wider than you might normally do in downward facing dog. And then lift your heels up nice and high and swivel your heels down towards the left. So you'll end up on the outer edge of your left foot and the inner edge of your right foot. Now, keeping your feet firmly planted, try to lift your hips up and back and keep your right hand really firm to the mat. So you're creating a side body stretch through the right side of your upper body, the side of your waist. If you feel you're coming forward to plank pose, just do your best to push into the mat through your hands, keep your neck relaxed. Great. And then lift your heels back up. As you exhale, bend your knees, look forward, step or hop your feet forward. Come up to a halfway lift. And bow in when you exhale. Just like last time, let's do 3 of these. So inhale to lengthen again. Breathe. And exhale to bow. Okay, one more time. Inhale. And then exhale. Okay, so with your hands on blocks or the ground, step your left foot back, take a long stride. And then walk your hands underneath your shoulders and bring your left knee down to the mat or a soft cushion. Bring your right elbow onto your right thigh. If you're kind of reaching for the ground with your left fingertips, take your left hand onto a block. Now as you inhale, start to shift your hips back and lift your right toes, so you're moving into your right hamstrings. And when you exhale, lunge into your right knee, just as so far the front of your left hip is in tension. Then inhale to move back again. And exhale to move forward. Okay, 3 more on your own. Take your time, try to slow down your breath. Just notice this little feather, down feather on you. Should take my eyes elsewhere. Okay. Is that 5? Yeah, great. Okay, bring your right hand to your inner right foot. Move your hips back. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Can you just go back to where you were? That'll be a little cut. Okay. Bring your right hand to your right hip. Push down through your left hand and gradually turn your upper body towards the right. If you're more comfortable turning your right toes open a little like Chris has and moving your knee open, you can too. Slide your shoulders away from your ears and reach your right fingertips up towards the ceiling. If it feels good in your body, you can also turn your right palm forward and extend your fingertips forward. So you're building length between your fingertips and your tailbone and your back knee. When we twist, our spine contracts a little bit, and so we're trying to add the length again so there can be tension and release. When you breathe out, unwind, bring your right hand down to your inner right foot, and then wiggle your right foot loose, extend your foot back, bringing your leg about up to hip height. Bring your left hip over your left knee, and then bend your elbows, lean forward, come down onto your forearms. Okay, this time move your right hand in front of your face, your right forearm's on an angle, and remember you can keep both hands down, or if you're comfortable, bring your left hand to your left hip. Lift from your lower belly towards your spines. We're trying to prevent the back bend as best as possible. Bend your right knee, and then reach your left hand towards your right foot. So if you are taking that bind, your spine will move into a bit of a bow shape. Just make sure that you're lifting up away from gravity, bringing your front body towards your back body. And try to create lots of space through your neck so your neck has room to turn. Make sure you're not holding your breath. And then let go of your foot. Bring your hand and knee down. Extend your right leg. Keep your foot flexed and carry your right foot over towards the right. Place your foot down. Level out the height of your hips. Keep your left hand underneath you, move it underneath your chest, and then bring your right hand up to your right outer thigh. And start by giving a little push down through your right outer thigh so you feel your hips are about at a level height. And then keep pressing down through your left hand and turn your chest towards the right too. So both hands are exerting some downward pressure. Smooth your shoulders away from your ears. You're bringing your upper back into the pose, and this is helpful to develop good posture and also create space for good breathing. One more steady round of breath. And then release, bring both hands down, both knees down. Downward facing dog, walk your hands ahead of your shoulders, curl your toes, and again, lift your hips up and back. Space your feet a little wider. Lift your heels up nice and high, and then spin your heels towards the right. So you're coming to the outer edge of your right foot, inner edge of your left foot. Press down firmly through your hands. Try to keep your left hand grounded, and then move your hips up and back. So you're moving into tension through the left side of your upper body. When we're trying to twist, it's a really good idea to stretch out your side bodies first, because this is needed to create space to twist. Okay. Then lift your heels up and recenter your feet and your hands. The next time you breathe in, lift your heels up a little more. And then bend your knees, look forward, bring your feet up to your hands, into a halfway lift, and then bow forward as you breathe out. Let's come up to stand, take your time, rise up, reach up two, and then bring your arms down by your sides. close the gap between your feet. And we're going to move into a standing twist. Bend your knees, start to take chair pose through your legs. Your hips can be higher or lower. Bring your hands together to heart center. And before you twist, draw your tailbone down, lift your lower belly up. Okay, now gradually turn your upper body towards the left. So your right elbow comes closer to your legs, your left elbow lifts up. And if you'd like, you can sit in further like Chris is doing and bring your elbow right down to your legs. Okay, try to move your right hip back just enough that you feel your knees line up. Sometimes we swivel our legs to get into the twist. So keep your legs out of the twist, but your spine is the axis that you're turning around. Make sure that you're not holding your breath. It's an intense pose to hold, so let your breath be steady. Now, the next time you breathe in, carefully unwind so you're in chair pose. And when you breathe out, bring your hands down underneath your shoulders. Step your right foot back, take a long stride. Wiggle your feet hip-width distance apart. Now, come up to a high lunge, but if you prefer, you can bring your right knee to the mat and make this a low lunge. Bring your arms up overhead so you get some chance to space out your side bodies again. And your back knee can have a little bend in it, or your back leg could be straighter. Do your best to angle your hips to face forward, so that's rolling your left hip back and hug your right thigh bone forward and up, lifting up through the center of your chest. Okay, now keep the top of your head elevated and still, and turn your upper body towards the left. Reach back with your left hand and forward with your right hand. And try to soften down through your shoulders, and for the time being, keep an upright shape. Now we're going to slowly lean forward, reach forward through your right hand so your upper body tilts, and then bring your right hand to the ground underneath your right shoulder. It can come to a block too. Walk your right hand a little bit further to the right. This is to give yourself a bit more room. And turn your left toes slightly to the left. Also angle your left thigh bone open. Now this is going to be a twist, but we're going to give ourselves a little bit more room in the hips. And so let your right hip lower than your left one. So your pelvis takes on a little swivel. And then turn your upper body towards the left. Turn your left palm forward and extend your fingertips away from your back heel. So this can be simply a twist with the hip swivel that you've created, but you can also add a bit of a back bend if you'd like. Roll your right shoulder underneath you because you're putting pressure on that hand, and then extend back through your left thumb, back through the back edges of your ears. Make sure that your breath is carrying you there if you're coming into the extension of the spine. Let's take one more slow breath in. Now when you exhale, unwind, bring your left hand down. We're going to move to three-legged dog, so lift your left leg up and back behind you. Now this time, lift your left hip above the height of your right one and bend your left knee. Now, so you're bringing some space through the front of your left hip where you're just compressed. And you're also adding an opposite twist from where you just were. If you keep your shoulders at a level height, but lift your left hip higher, there is turning through your spine. Okay, now breathe in with your left knee lifted. As you breathe out, bring your left knee towards your right upper arm bone. So there's a little twist in the opposite direction. And then inhale, bring your knee up and back. Lift your hip a little higher. Great, and exhale, move your knee towards your right upper arm bone. Okay, one more time, and inhale. And an exhale. Okay, now step back into plank pose. You've been on your hands for a while, so maybe you choose to bring your knees down to the mat. Roll your shoulders back. Lengthen your tailbone towards your heels, lift your lower belly up, and with a slow exhale, come right down onto your stomach. Okay, now untuck your toes, reach your hands back behind you. Your palms can face your hips, or you can clasp your hands. Press down through the tops of your feet, the front of your pelvis, Shalabhasana Locust Pose. Lift up through your chest and the back edges of your ears. You can keep your feet on the ground, or if it's comfortable for you to lift your inner leg lines and lift your feet up, you can as well. Feel the next inhale as it arises. And when you breathe out, soften down, bring your palms down, and return to downward facing dog. Now, raise your left leg up to three-legged dog. And step your left foot forward up towards your left hand. It doesn't actually have to be the longest stride you could take, just long enough. Now your hands can be on blocks or the ground. Start to walk your hands back and lengthen out your left leg, creating a sustained hamstring stretch. How we're going to work with this hamstring stretch is with your left hip rolled back, your right heel floating, and push from the ball of your right foot to draw your right hip forward. So you're pretty much squaring off your hips. If it feels good in your body to add a bit of movement, it can be quite effective to get deeper into the stretch. So with each inhale, lengthen through your spine, but as you exhale, move your upper body in towards your left leg. So that can be done in motion a couple more times. And bend your left knee. Walk your hands forward, step your right foot forward, come up to a halfway lift as you arrive. And as you exhale, bow in. Okay, as you inhale, come up to the halfway lift again, preparing to hold there. Your hands can be on blocks or the ground. Hug your inner thighs towards each other, lift your lower belly towards your spine. Now bring your left hand up to your left hip. Turn your upper body towards the left while you push your right hand down into a firm surface. So if that's a block, if it's your right shin, or even your fingertips to the ground. Try to keep your hips at a level height, and you can do this pretty much by not bending one knee more than the other. We're doing this just about the same. And then lengthen the center of your chest forward. So roll your shoulders away from your ears so your neck is length again. And if you're comfortable reaching your left fingertips up towards the ceiling, you can do that too. And then softly look down, lower your left hand, put a generous bend into your knees, and slowly lift your upper body. We're coming up to mountain pose. Release your arms down by your sides. Bring your feet together, nice and close. As you breathe in, float your arms up. And as you exhale, bring your hands to your heart. Okay, begin to bend your knees, sit down in chair pose. Hug your legs in towards each other, lengthen your tailbone down, lift your lower belly up, and then turn towards the right, bringing your left elbow down, your right elbow up. If you like, you can sit right down, bringing your elbow onto your thigh. Try to keep your hips even to one another. If you feel your left knee on this side is slid ahead of your right knee, just bring it back enough that your inner knees line up. Keep hugging your legs towards each other. Keep your weight balanced over the arches of your feet and your breath steady. One more slow breath in. As you exhale, unwind, reach your fingertips down to the ground. Step your left foot back, take a long stride. Also place your feet hip-width distance apart now for balance. We're going to come to a high lunge, but it can be a low lunge if you prefer, with your back knee on the ground. Yeah, so come up as you're ready. And then raise your arms up with your palms facing each other. This will be for a few breaths to help open up the sides of your waist and also to align your hips. So with continual effort, roll your right hip back and hug your left thigh bone forward and up. And lift up through the top of your head. So you're moving up away from the pull of the earth towards the sky. Keep the crown of your head quite still. Turn towards the right, bring your right hand back and your left hand forward. So we're still quite upright. Hug your right inner thigh in towards the midline of your mat for steadiness. And then begin to reach forward through your left fingertips. Lean forward and place your left hand down underneath your shoulder. Reach your right arm up. Now let's give ourselves a little bit more space. So walk your left hand a bit wider to the left. You could be on your fingertips, but you may end up on your palm as a better source of steadiness. Then turn your right toes out a few degrees to the right, as well as your right thigh bone. And let your left hip move lower than your right. So you're adding some swivel to your hips so you can really turn your chest sideways, stacking shoulder over shoulder. Turn your right palm forward. If it feels good through your shoulder, stretch your fingertips forward. So then you can really create the length from your right fingertips back to your right knee or right foot. And if some extension, some back bend feels good, then lean back through the back of your head, lean back through your right thumb. And carefully unwind, bring your right hand down, three-legged dog, lift your right leg up and back. With your right leg afloat, also bring your right hip higher than your left, and then place a bend in your right knee. Pausing for a moment in this counter twist, so that's created by keeping your right shoulder down to the height of your left shoulder, but your right hip lifted up. Okay, now we'll come into some movement, so here's where you breathe in. But as you breathe out, move your right knee towards your left upper arm bone using your core strength. Inhale, lift your leg up and back. Great, and then exhale, hug in as best as you can on a diagonal, and one more time, inhaling. Great, and exhale. Okay, now step back to plank pose. Your knees can be lifted or feel free to put them down on the mat. Roll your shoulders back, keep strong through your lower belly. Bend your elbows and lower down to the mat. Untuck your toes, reach your hands back. Clasp your hands or keep your palms free of each other. Press down through the tops of your feet, down through your pelvis, Shalabhasana, lift through your chest. And then again, your feet can stay down or you can elevate your feet. Each time you breathe in, try to lift and expand. And when you exhale, let your exhales arrive down towards your lower belly and pelvic floor. Then unstitch your hands if they're clasped. Bring your palms down, curl your toes under, downward facing dog. Okay. As you breathe in, float your right leg up. And then step your right foot forward. Again, it doesn't need to be a really long stride. Your hands can be on blocks or the ground. Walk your hands back and move your hips back. So you're coming into a hamstring stretch. And keep your left heel afloat as you push down through the ball of your left foot. Draw your left hip forward. Like you're pose your leg like a big set of scissors, drawing your inner thighs towards each other. Yeah, and then some movement with the breath if it feels good, especially if you feel you're stuck in tension. Some movement can help to soften the edges. Slow breath. And then bend your right knee and walk your hands ahead. Step your left foot forward. Come up to a halfway lift as you breathe in. And exhale to bow in. Okay, now as you inhale again, come up to a halfway lift, preparing to hold. So make sure your hands are firm on the ground, on blocks, or on your shin bones. Keep your left hand down firmly. Bring your right hand up to your right hip. Now here we'll try to keep our hips at a level height, and you can pretty much judge that by keeping your knees evenly bent or evenly straight, and then turn your chest towards the right and your gaze towards the right too. Try to lengthen the top of your head from your tailbone. If you're comfortable through your right shoulder to reach your arms up, or your arm up rather, then you can do. Expanding across your collarbones. Look down, lower your right hand, put a bend into your knees, and make your way up to mountain pose. All right, so we've been preparing for a rather difficult twist called Revolve Triangle. We're going to simply move into the pose. It's helpful to use a block, but I'll guide if you don't have a block, other ways you can support yourself. Bring your hands onto your hips, put a little bend into your knees. Step your right foot back about a leg length stride, and then bring your right heel down. Straighten out your left leg, although you can keep a micro bend in your knee, but it's mostly straight, and then roll your left hip back. Keep your left hand on your left hip. Reach your right arm towards the ceiling so you're long through your side bodies, and then tip forward from your hips. Your lower back stays smooth. Then bring your right hand down. It can be onto your left thigh, your left shin bone, a block, or the ground. If you're going for a block or the ground, it can be underneath your right shoulder or possibly crossed to your left outer foot. And that does make the pose a little more tippy, so you can just be the judge of that. Now push your right hand down firmly into the ground or into your leg and turn your upper body towards the left. Try to keep your left hip rolled back. If it's too intense in your left hamstrings, just bend your left knee a little more. Your left hand can stay at your left hip or stretch your fingertips up towards the ceiling. I'll add one more thing. Your back heel, which you brought flat to the ground, if it doesn't feel great that way, feel free to float your heel. Earlier, we lifted our heel intentionally. It's no problem if you do that here too. Okay, lots of strength through your back muscles in the pose and in your outer hips, so try to feed that with your breath. We're coming towards the end of the pose. Feel the next inhale. Great. As you exhale, unwind, bend your left knee, walk your hands forward, step your right foot forward. Come into a halfway lift, and then when you breathe out, bend your knees. Fold in. Just a couple of rest breaths here. That can be in stillness, or if it feels good to rock side to side, or even pedal out your knees, stretching out one leg or the other. Just move intuitively with what feels right in your body. So we'll come up to stand with a supported spine by your back muscles or a bend in your knees. Arrive in mountain pose, bring your hands to your hips. Shift your weight into your right foot. Step your left foot back, about a leg length stride is good. And then bring your left heel down. Just watch that your back foot isn't turned too wide to the side. You want it turned forward as much as reasonably possible, about 30 degrees or so. And then with your right hand on your right hip, roll your right hip back, extend your left arm up. When you breathe out, tip forward from your hips, keep your spine long. Bring your left hand either to your right thigh or shin bone, to a block or the ground. Yeah, and that can be to your inner left foot or possibly to your outer left foot. Just make sure it doesn't feel awkward, that you're still steady. Now, using your right hand, roll your right hip back. Gradually turn your upper body towards the right. Yeah, and as you do, really push down through your left hand as there is a stilt to support you. If you're comfortable lifting your right fingertips up, you certainly can. And then a couple of ways you can modify if the expression is too intense through your right hamstrings, or you feel you're rounding your spine, bend your right knee, no big deal. And if your back heel does not feel comfortable on the mat, feel free to float your heel up. No problem either. Just make sure your left hand's very steady to help you balance. So again, let your next inhale be felt at its fullest. As you exhale, unwind, lower both hands, bend your right knee. Let's step this one back, actually. Step it back to downward facing dog. Downward facing dog is a wonderful pose to lengthen out your spine, to decompress your spine. And so we've come into a few twists that do wring out your back muscles and create a little bit of tension. And then down dog is just a nice neutralizer after the twists. Okay. Then from down dog, carefully bring your knees down to the ground. We're going to sit down, so swivel your hips to one side, bring your legs out ahead of you. And we're going to work into a seated spinal twist. So I didn't mention it at the beginning, but if you do have a pillow at home, you probably have a pillow at home, then you could sit just on the front edge of the pillow, or even you could sit entirely on the pillow, but it gives your hamstrings a bit more space. First bend your left knee, bring the sole of your left foot flat. We're going to keep our foot to the inside of our right thigh. Sometimes we take it to the outer side, but let's work this way today. So hug your left inner thigh in towards the midline, or in towards the midline of your body, and then bring your left hand just behind your left hip and a little off to the side. Push down through your left hand, lift through your chest, wrap your right arm around your left leg, and then turn your chest towards the left, bringing the right side of your rib cage in towards your left inner thigh. Your gaze can follow the direction of your chest, or if you have room to turn further into the twist, just try to keep lots of length through your neck, lift up through the base of your skull as you turn. And you're probably not looking at the screen right now, so don't worry about it, but your right leg that's extended like Chris is doing, really flex through your foot, so you're nice and steady through the extended leg as well. After you've breathed in one more time, carefully unwind. Let's take a counter twist. So as you inhale, turn towards the right, just keeping your legs the same, a nice freeing twist, and then exhale to undo that. Great. So let's change our legs. Stretch out your left leg, bend your right knee, bring the sole of your foot down. Then take your right hand behind you, fingertips or your palm. Take your left hand to your left leg and help yourself into the twist to the right. So you bring the right side of your rib cage back, but also the left side of your rib cage in towards your right inner thigh. Push down through your sitting bones, down through the firmness of your left heel, firmness of your right hand to create elevation through your spine and room to turn. Bring your neck into the pose as much as you feel right to do. Make sure that your jaw can be soft, your eyebrows can be soft, and that your breath is influencing the experience of the pose deep enough that you can feel change. Let's breathe in one more time like this. When you exhale, unwind just like the first side, a counter twist, an inhale to open, and an exhale to unwind again. Okay, if you're sitting on a block, come off that. Come onto your back. We're going to move into reclined bound angle. A lot of the postures that we've taken through the class have been forward folds. And so reclined bound angle is a nice way to reset your spine. It's a gentle back bend. It helps to lift your back body up. So you can either have your knees separated, the soles of your feet together without props, or if it feels good to have hard blocks underneath your knees or thigh bones, then they can bring the ground up to you quite firmly, and it's remarkable how much more relaxation that can come into your hips if you feel any strain. Tuck your shoulder blades underneath you, and then take up some space, providing you have some space to the left and the right. Let your arms open. If you don't have quite as much room, you could bend your elbows, cactus arms. Yeah, your arms could even go higher than your shoulders if that feels good in your body. That brings a little bit of extension into your upper back. When you breathe, let your breath course through you like a slow moving wave, so moving gradually up through your torso on the inhale and settling you back towards the earth on your exhales. So after all your hard work in practice, let the posture and your breath help to ground you again. Each other. Bring the soles of your feet flat to the ground. Keep your right foot to the ground, lift your left foot up, and cross your left outer foot onto your right thigh. Press your left knee away from your left shoulder, and your right foot can stay on the ground, or you can lift your right foot up and bring your hands around the back of your right thigh. If you're near a wall, what I'm doing with Chris with my shoulder to his foot, the wall could give you this kind of pressure, and it can feel like a nice assistance. You don't need to work so hard through your arms and your legs. Yeah, might as well. Make sure you're breathing deeply. Going to keep figure 4 shape to come into a twist variation. So carefully bring your right foot down to the ground. Keep your left foot on your right thigh. Walk your right foot slightly to the right. Yeah. And then move your right outer knee down towards the right so the sole of your left foot eventually comes down. Now you can adjust bringing your right knee up higher, more level to your hip if you don't feel much going on in your body at this point. But do watch that your left inner knee doesn't fall down towards the ground. Instead, try to draw your outer knee away from the right side of your upper body and your right shoulder. So apart from being somewhat of a spinal twist, this is also helpful in opening our hips and preparing for sitting cross-legged with more ease. you're drawing your left knee open, just soften that up so you can bring your left foot off your right thigh, or unwind in any case, whatever is the best way for you to do that. Let's trade legs. So first bring your right outer foot onto your left thigh, figure four, stretch for your outer hip. Lift your left foot up. And I can't reach so much on the side because the mic. Okay, so find a steady place for your left foot to be and press your right knee away from your right shoulder. So you're adding rotation to your right thigh, right up into your hip. You could use your hands to the back of your left thigh if you wish, or you could also just use the strength of your hips and core to keep your legs lifted. Slow, so you can get the most from this time, from your effort. Okay, now let's keep the figure four shape. Release your left foot down to the ground and walk your left foot slightly off to the left. Then move your left outer knee down towards the ground. And the sole of your right foot, move it down towards the ground too. And then instead of letting your right knee fall down towards your left hand, draw your right outer knee away from your left shoulder. You can imagine if you're sitting, this would be folding your outer knees down towards the ground, sitting cross-legged. Bring some tension into your hip flexors and outer hips. Let's take one more slow breath. Carefully release by coming onto your back with your feet even to the ground, and then just rock your knees a few times side to side. Let your hips reset, your lower back reset. We're going to move next into Shavasana, into a posture of rest. And so take your time to find any props for comfort, maybe a pillow underneath your head or something underneath your knees, anything you'd like. Bolster. Want to make sure that you can really be comfortable. That could also be putting a blanket over your body. All these things help to ground you so your effort can transform into a state of peace and a state of ease. Okay, let's take a clearing breath to help settle. Inhale slowly through your nose. Exhale. Yourself settle into stillness. movement back into your body. Maybe move your head side to side a few times, softening your neck. And bend your knees, bring the soles of your feet to the ground and lift your right arm overhead. Roll over to your right side. Fetal pose. And take all the time you need to move calmly and carefully up to a comfortable seated pose. When you come to your seat, keep your jaw soft, your eyelids heavy, and bring your palms together to heart center. Thank you for your careful effort, your hard work. Namaste. Welcome. Today's practice will be focused around twists. Twists are wonderful ways to improve our digestion. They help our internal organs work into their optimal function. And I'm not really going to say much more about the practice because I keep screwing it up. So today's practice. Okay, I'm just going to say today's practice is focused around twists.
Yeah, you can maybe mention all those good benefits
as we're doing it. Absolutely. You don't need to know now. You want to get moving. I'm going to shut up. All right.